Hello. Guys, you're not Neville. You're not Nero knowledge. You're not even me. In this video, I'm going to talk about something I like to talk about occasionally, which is if you're following all the manifestation masters online and all the great teachers like Nero, like Neville, there's a very good chance that you are going to be disappointed. And the reason for that is not because of the teacher. Sometimes it is because of the teacher, but when we're talking about actually good teachers, it's not because of the teacher. It's because of you. In the sense that you have to integrate this stuff into your own life in your own way. That's what we talk about on this channel. This is what makes it different than every other YouTube channel just about. If you've never been here before, link is in the description. You can get a free book of mine I wrote back in 2021 called The Law of Attraction Simplified. This book goes into depth about what we're going to talk about in this video. And one of the main things that it mentions and really explains is that any teacher, I don't care if it's Neville, Dr. Joe, Abraham Hicks, or whoever the heck else it is that you like, any manifestation type of teacher, really any type of spiritual teacher, period, at least 80% of what they're saying, at least, is not actually going to be relevant to your situation. There's a big saying in the community, circumstances don't matter. Guess what, boys and girls, ladies and gents? That's fucking utter bullshit. Circumstances always matter. Who you are is incredibly unique. There is nobody like you. Your life circumstances are very different than somebody else. Your life circumstances are very different than Neville growing up in Barbados and then getting into extremely weird metaphysical stuff while being a dramatist and dancer in the 1920s and 1930s in New York. Your circumstances are likely very different than Nero's of being a young person growing up in an urban environment and being very much interested in, first of all, kind of like, the Christian religion, and then reading a ton of metaphysical books when he's still a teenager. Do you really think that's you? Do you? You really think that's you? And do you really think the way that they explain their journey and how they explain applying this stuff is going to apply to you across the board? It's not going to. Even the best teachers, and this is, again, what I talk about in depth in the Law of Attraction Simplified. Even the best teachers, you have to basically just throw out 80% of what they say because it's not relevant to your situation. Your situation. What's difficult and why most people, quite frankly, get nowhere with this stuff, because despite what you may have heard and despite all the comments and da-da-da-da-da, most people do not have success applying Neville's advice or Nero's advice or anybody's advice, especially long-term. You might have a couple of short-term successes, but applying this manifestation stuff long-term, when I start talking about it in that way, it's crickets, guys. And a reason for that is because it's difficult for most of us to accept that 20, 15, 10% that's really good from a teacher, or maybe just 5% or even 1%, and throw out the rest. It seems like we're so predisposed to be like, you know what, I like someone, I got to go all in on their teachings. I got to go all in on this teacher. If I'm into Nero, I got to be all into frequency. If I'm into Neville, I have to be all in on imagination and living in the end. And, a lot of these teachers basically say that. You have to go all in. And when you do that, you get fucked. At least most of you. And I'm not talking about like, maybe 5% don't get fucked. I'm talking about like, 99% or maybe more than that get fucked when they go all in on a teacher and then they realize, don't follow false idols. See what Nero's pointing out, what Neville's pointing at, what I think basically all these manifestation and even, you say spiritual teachers are pointing at is the deeper spiritual truth, which cannot be put into words or a certain philosophy. As soon as you try to put it into a certain philosophy, you lose it. And when you lose it, it's very painful because you realize, man, I'm trying to, be in the right frequency. I'm trying to live from the end, and I'm not able to do that. Why is that? And you look at the teacher trying to get answers, and the answers do not come from the teacher. So what do you do then? What you do then is integrate it in your own way, using your own life experiences, your own likes and dislikes, your own sensibilities, moving through those difficult emotions that most of us have to deal with, resistance as it's called in the community, when they come up, like fear, shame, and actually utilize these principles in a grounded, holistic, somatic way, so it's not just from your head. Because one of the biggest mistakes people make is to think, oh, I can just control my reality mentally in some way. Everything is in the mind. That's effing nonsense, guys. That's going to work for very few of you long term. You have to deal with the reality of your mind and body. You have to get somatic. And very few people in the community want to get somatic, truly want to do the shadow work when it's not just, oh, I realize I should like my parents more than I do, but actually feel the pain in the past trauma in your chest and your stomach when you think about your relationship with your parents and what happened when you were younger. We got to get deep, in short. When we get deep, we stop idolizing teachers. We stop trying to be like Neville or be like Nero or be like Abraham Hicks or whatever. And you guys, some of you might be like, well, that's absurd. I'm not trying to be like them. And I would say, yeah, well, hopefully you're not, but you probably have the wool pulled over your eyes. Because if you're, on Reddit or on YouTube trying to find out about this stuff, you are falling into the cult of just stupidity and simplification when it comes to these ideas a lot of the time. The Dunning-Kruger effect, I'll put a link above to a video we did on that, in prime form. People who know very little about a topic thinking they're masters of a topic, and the few people who actually do know something thinking maybe they don't even know anything at all because there's so much to know. Like go on the Neville subreddit. Man, you want to see a crazy community that has their head in the sand. Don't try to be these teachers. Learn from these wonderful teachers. Integrate the 5, 10, 15% that makes sense to you deeply and deeply resonates with you, and be willing to drop the rest. This process does not happen overnight, but it is well worth doing, as you will be able to learn how to actually feel better being who you are by applying these really cool metaphysical and spiritual principles. So I hope this was helpful. This PSA from the Papa Bear Tim in the car hit home for you. If you have questions, again, check out that book. Link is in the description. You can also schedule a short, free Zoom call with me if you're serious about this stuff. Do not contact me if you're not serious. And just remember, you are your own guru.